The Toronto Blue Jays are going for the sweep today against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but that is not the biggest piece of news coming out of Jays land today. They are apparently showing strong interest in Marcus Stroman of the Chicago Cubs, and that is being reported by a notable Chicago reporter, Daniel Greenberg. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, we're about 30 minutes away from first pitch between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Arizona Diamondbacks, but this piece of news just dropped a few minutes ago by Daniel Greenberg. The Jays are reportedly showing strong interest in Marcus Stroman. Now, I don't know how realistic this is. I don't know what it will take for a deal to happen, but this is an absolute bomb dropped by a pretty notable reporter, Nick.
Yeah, in a world where there's always a lot of, fake news and rumors going around, it's very rare that especially this, not super close to the deadline, that a notable reporter drops a Blue Jays news bomb. And let's just get right into it. Before we do, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7,500. But Daniel Greenberg, lots of followers. He's connected with Chicago news and reporting of the Chicago Cubs. And he says the Toronto Blue Jays are showing strong interest in trading for Chicago Cubs starter Marcus Stroman per MLB's Bruce Levine. So they're both kind of reporting it there. And Peter, Marcus Stroman is a guy that we discussed about a month ago. He's having a career year. I'll get into his stats in a minute. But what are your initial thoughts on this news? It is an interesting time to be reporting this, considering Hyun-Jin Ryu is on his way back. Alek Manoah is back within the rotation. Are we going to see a six-man rotation if this goes through? I know. How realistic do you think it is? But regardless of that, the Jays seem to be going for the former Blue Jay himself.
Yeah, and I'm pretty shocked because this front office had a bit of a fallout with Marcus Stroman, and that obviously led to his being traded to the New York Mets. But this is very surprising, and obviously there's a lot of uncertainty in the rotation apart from your top three guys in Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, and Jose Barrios. So you're not sure what you're going to get out of Yusei Kikuchi every fifth day, although he has been pretty good in the role that he's been filling. Alek Manoah is probably the biggest wild card of those five names that I just mentioned. And Hyun-Jin Ryu, again, another wild card. You're not sure what to expect out of him coming back from Tommy John surgery. He's 36 years of age. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. And a lot of moving parts are going to have to be put into place for this trade to go through. Someone's got to come off the 40-man roster, so you're probably going to have to trade someone who is on your 40-man currently. And you're going to have to move quite a bit of money because Marcus Stroman is not making the league minimum. He's making quite a bit. I'm not sure the exact dollar figure, but you're going to have to move some serious money for that to align. And the Cubs are going to want some pretty good prospects in return. Now, he is a rental. You're not sure for how long you're going to have him. Maybe if the Blue Jays were to swing a deal for him, that they would want a deal in place, maybe a 2-3 year term deal, but I don't know if Marcus Stroman will be willing to sign that to whoever team he goes to. He's gonna want to get paid in free agency, and he deserves to get paid because he's having one of the best seasons of his career, if not the best season of his career. So it's gonna be tough, a lot of moving parts to make this happen, but I'm very shocked that this news came out today, Nick.
Yeah, very, very shocked. And let's just be real. Marcus Stroman is having a phenomenal year. You can look at his stats. He has honestly been a career guy who's always been an absolute horse. He's a great personality, or some would agree with that. Some don't like his personality as much. But regardless, you can't argue with the stats. 2.88 ERA, 20 games started, tons of innings. Just the best year of his career following a couple of, an off year last year to a degree. But he would be the biggest fish on the market, or at least the biggest pitcher that is on the market during this trade deadline. And if the Blue Jays feel like they are capable of winning the World Series this year and they want to give up some prospects for the best available player, is it the best fit? I mean, it would definitely shore up our rotation. However, the question becomes, like you just mentioned, is we do have a lot of starting pitchers that are kind of on the fringe. However, if Marcus Stroman gets traded to the Jays, he is sliding right into that number 2 spot right alongside Kevin Gausman. And then you have a 1 to 3 of Kevin Gausman, Marcus Stroman, Chris Bassett, with Jose Barrios having a really, really good year too. And then you're battling for a 5th spot. That would be the best rotation, if not one of the best rotations in the MLB, and it would set them up for playoff success for sure. But what would it take to get Marcus Stroman is the question. And if they would be better off going for someone like an outfielder to help shore up that with, Santiago Espinal and Kevin Biggio being those other options. So, I don't know. It's going to be a very, very wild trade deadline, and one that we thought the Blue Jays would maybe stay quiet or to a degree. But, they're getting hot right now, and maybe they just want to shore up that rotation, and there's no bigger splash to make than Marcus Stroman, at least during this trade deadline that's seeming to be, or was at least shaping up originally to be fairly quiet for the Jays.
Yeah, I was not expecting a starter to be one of their main targets heading into the deadline, but I'm not complaining about bringing in a former All-Star and an All-Star who was part of the team this year back to town. And Marcus Stroman is just a great playoff guy. He's shown that in his career so far with the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'd welcome him back with open arms. I don't know about I don't want to speak for other Blue Jay fans, but I would be super happy to have him back. And he is probably the biggest fish on the market right now. And this is an all-in type of move for the Toronto Blue Jays. So if they do go out and acquire someone like Marcus Stroman, you got to believe that there's other moves that are going to follow, whether it be for a big bat, whether it be for, someone else that could help in the bullpen. You just never know. But like I said before, a lot of moving parts are going to have to happen for this trade to go through, whether it be releasing someone from the 40-man roster, whether it be tying up some money into the deal in order for it to make it work financially for both teams. It's just really hard to predict, and I don't even know what a package would look like. I guess maybe a couple of major leaguers just to free up some spaces, and then a couple of pretty decent prospects. I wouldn't say any top five prospects in the Blue Jays system, but maybe a couple of mid-tier prospects to get it done there.
Yeah, it completely depends. And Marcus Stroman has spoken in the past how much he loves Toronto, and I wouldn't think that an extension, if we do acquire him, would be necessarily out of the question. Again, it depends, and this is also reported recently by Bob Nightingale, in case you missed it in one of his articles, that the Houston Astros have checked in with Chicago Cubs about starter Marcus Stroman and center fielder Cody Bellinger. The notable thing here is that he states that each who are expected to be available, so the report is definitely, starting to shape up, but this also goes to show that the Jays are going to have a lot of competitors for Marcus Stroman, especially like we keep talking about it being a pretty shallow trade deadline. Players like Marcus Stroman, any team that it wants to make a push for it is going to go for Marcus Stroman, and there's a lot of teams that have, I would say, more assets maybe or at least be willing to give up more assets for a pitcher. Even think about the teams like the Baltimore Orioles, if they want to shore up their starting rotation because they have a pretty poor starting rotation in general, they could go for Marcus Stroman, and the Blue Jays would have to give up maybe, like you said, a mid-tier prospect, or maybe they'll be forced to throw in a top 5 prospect because like we keep saying, he's been unbelievable this year. There's no doubt about it. His baseball savants aren't the best, but he's an absolute dog, and very, very wild news today. Again, a lot of people on Twitter are saying they don't know how realistic it is, and that's the thing. The report's real. How realistic it is that the Jays go out and get this guy, it seems a little unlikely. However, the Jays, they've done crazier things in the past, and maybe it's a 2015 type scenario where they just say, I think this is our chance, especially with them playing so good recently. They're 7-1 in their last 8. Maybe they just go for it, swing all in, and like you said, if they get Marcus Stroman, then we really need to buckle up for more moves. So I don't think they would just get Stroman and stop there. I think they'd really empty the farm at this point.
Yeah, I just don't think the fit is necessarily there for the Toronto Blue Jays. Like that team that you mentioned, the Houston Astros, that's a team that desperately needs Marcus Stroman because Jose Urquidy is going to be out for a long time. Lance McCullers out for the year. Their pitching depth is not necessarily great, and Christian Javier has been having a down season. So the Astros are a prime team for me when looking in the Marcus Stroman sweepstakes, and I think that puts them over the top into World Series contention yet again, as if the league needed that from the Astros. But I think the Astros are a legit team to look at here, and the Blue Jays just have a bit of a logjam in that starting rotation. I know you have more certainty if you do throw Marcus Stroman in there as opposed to Yusei Kikuchi and move Kikuchi to the pen, but it's just hard to predict. And there's going to be a lot of suitors for Marcus Stroman. I don't think you'll have to give up a haul for him because he is an expiring contract. But still, he's going to get the Cubs a couple of good prospects and maybe a decent major leaguer as well. So it'll be interesting to monitor that. But I just don't see a way that the Blue Jays can swing a deal, but showing interest is a good first step in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they know something that we don't about maybe the health of their rotation, or maybe they just full send it and go with a 6-man rotation the rest of the way out, which is what I saw a couple people saying. But like you said, I feel like the Jays have some other fish to fry in the trade market, and maybe not as popular ones like Marcus Stroman, but some other guys that could just shore up the bigger glaring weaknesses on the team, because the pitching has been unbelievable. You can never go wrong adding Marcus Stroman, but it'll be a very, very interesting trade deadline, especially after this report. And reports are starting to heat up, so make sure you stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.